Republican presidential candidate Newt Gingrich has been gaining in the polls, and we now know that he earned a $300,000 fee to advise Freddie Mac as a, quote, historian, and warned the company that its business model was insane. That's not, though, how former Freddie officials remember things happening. Our chief Washington correspondent Peter Cook is on this story. Peter?
Margaret, as you said, Gingrich surging in the polls, including that Iowa poll Hans just talked about. And with that rise comes new scrutiny of not only his time in Congress, but also his work in the private sector ever since then. Specifically, his work for the government-sponsored mortgage giant Freddie Mac, which he now wants to shut down as part of his presidential campaign. Back in 2006, he was hired by Freddie Mac, paid $300,000. He said at last week's debate that he did no lobbying, was instead paid to offer his advice as a historian.
My advice as a historian, when they walked in and said to me, we are now making loans to people who have no credit history and have no record of paying back anything, but that's what the government wants us to do, as I said to them at the time, this is a bubble. This is insane. This is impossible.
Former Freddie Mac officials, they remember it a little bit differently. They say that if Gingrich had concerns about the company's business model or a bubble in the housing sector, he never shared those concerns with then CEO Richard Sirron. Instead, they say the former House Speaker was asked to build bridges to Hill Republicans and develop an argument on behalf of the company's unique public-private structure that would resonate with conservatives who were at the time trying to dismantle Freddie Mac. Two former officials say Gingrich was expected to provide materials that could be circulated among Republican lawmakers, and he attended brainstorming sessions with the company management. At the time, the company, of course, faced intense criticism from Republicans, was actively trying to expand its GOP connections. Gingrich was one of several Republicans brought in for advice. Now, the campaign maintains Gingrich was only a strategic advisor, and the Speaker says his contract specifically prevented him from lobbying. But, Margaret, he wouldn't be the first strategic advisor to brush up against the lobbying line. The difference here is Newt Gingrich is running for president.